Last winter I've tried 3 different reserves, and the experience I've made I'd like to share with you. Please bear in mind that I'm not a professional. This is my subjective experience and my subjective point of view. The first one was a Orange ST, a Rogallo shaped reserve system. After throwing it, I was a bit shocked of how long it took to open. Not shocked, surprised is the better word. Right after it opened, I was surprised by the pressure in my neck. My whole head was pushed towards my chest, and on top of it I got strangled by the harness. Here you can see why it took a bit longer. The whole lines were messed up a little, the whole system was twisted. Straight away I disconnected half of the glider. I wanted to look up to see what's going on above. It took me some time to realize that I had to twist my head or turn my head towards one side in order to look up. I've realized that there was a twist, so I decided to disconnect the whole glider in order to de-twist and to get hold of the yellow handles that allowed me to stir. Before I tried it out, I tested whether I could reach those yellow handlebars, and I've realized that I had to actually lengthen them because I would have not been able to reach them. With certain harnesses and certain reserve systems, that can appear that the two systems are incompatible. Landing was smooth. I landed exactly where I wanted to, so that was cool. The shocking thing is that it took me 52 seconds to reach a point of steering that equals 160 to 200 meters of altitude loss. The second one was an in-case 3. A normal reserve system, I'd say. In comparison to the first one, the opening process happened much quicker. Right after it opened, I started getting the glider in. That I imagined a bit easier. When you sink with 6 meters a second, the wind blows with 20 kilometers an hour from the toes to the head, so that makes it a bit difficult to get it in. From that angle you can see how quickly it opened, and as soon as the pressure was in the reserve, how the whole glider went forwards. This beautiful area, by the way, is called Werfmeng. That is in Salzburg, Austria, my favorite place. Here you can see how getting the glider in causes the whole system to swing around. The designer of the reserve told me that if possible, stalling it via the B lines or D lines adds a certain amount of stability towards the system, so that can avoid those swinging movements. This is something I've learned after. It's funny, you ask several people about their opinions what reserve to use, you get like different answers from every person, so you have to make your own mind up here. The swinging movement went on until I reached the ground, so there was no end to it. As soon as it swung, it didn't stop. From this point of view, you can see how I turn around and how I swing around. It's a very uncomfortable feeling because I have already realized then how fast I go down. A little moment of not being concentrated and the whole glider would go away again. I came to the conclusion that it doesn't actually matter whether I land on a glider or not. I just focused on landing smoothly. I had a second reserve that day, a smaller one. I didn't dare to use because that speed was already fast enough for me. On landings like that, one can really decrease the likeliness of getting injured by using or applying a certain technique. That should be an example. Landing on the tip of your toes, rolling over your knees onto your hip, then your upper body. My technique is not perfect. An instructor told me that the toes should have been closer together, so the elbows, in order to avoid injuries on your shoulder. Obviously that is theory. In reality it's very unlikely that one lands on nice slushy snow. I just made that one shot to give you an idea to think about it. The third one was a Independence Evercross, a new system, I'd say. It is advertised as a reserve system that opens really quickly. In that case that was right, and it's supposed to swing less and come down slower. Again, even though I have already been in the situation, I was surprised by the pressure in my neck, so I made a little fuck up with the glider. You can see a yellow air balloon I have attached to the grip of the reserve system. I will come back to that later, to that air balloon. Here we go. Surprised by the pressure, lost control of the situation because I thought about the pressure, and so I made a little error and the whole glider went back up to the reserve system. That led into me being caught up in the lines. I had to free myself. Then I disconnected half of the glider after getting rid of that mess. At this moment of time I already thought I've made a huge error because I thought there was no wind. I felt that I was drifting towards the houses. So I disconnected the whole glider. My next thought was maybe that situation causes that great drift towards the houses. I've let go of the glider completely, and as soon as I was by myself, the whole system really started to fly towards one direction. I was very lucky to make it safely on the roof. I really thought that I could crash into the front of the house or half land on the roof. That would have been worse. On the left, the orange is the steerable one. On the right, the Evercross. In my opinion, they're pretty similar decreasing or rates and gliding angle rates. The red box indicates where the red or yellow air balloon landed. The air balloon went down quite slow, so that indicates there was no wind. In this picture we can see the shape of the reserve. There's a little asymmetric thing built into it. In my opinion, that asymmetric shape causes the glider to fly into one direction. That leads into coming down slower and not being as likely to bounce around or swing around. To me it's just dodgy to sell a reserve system and not mentioning that actually flies into one direction. I know so many acro pilots that go over a certain field in order to do their acro training, but what's the point if you release that system in 200 meters, the box is 200 by 200 meters, and you're right in the middle of it, and with a gliding angle of 1 to 1 you actually go out of the box you want to land in. Obviously you can be very lucky. There are so many different situations that occur, to me it's just much more likely to crash into vertical areas like houses or power lines, power grids. So you have to make your own opinion up. I came to the conclusion that there's no perfect system. Every system got its own advantages and disadvantages. So in the end of the day, you need to be very lucky in order not to get injured by one of those things if you really need them. So I hope you never need it, and if you do so, that luck is with you. Thank you very much.